What's happening, guys? Happy Thursday. Yeah, that's right. Another off day for the boys here at the Dynasty WarZone. I am your host. My name is Memphis. You can follow me on Twitter at DWZMemphis. And on tonight's show, we're going to be talking about veteran Dynasty winners and losers. But I'll tell you who's always been a winner, never been a loser. He is my co-host. He is the man of the hour and the man with the power, Mr. Jerry Sinclair. Buddy, what's going on?
Nothing, man. I mean, we have the draft. This is our bonus show. If there's anything that could possibly get me more excited, I don't know what it could possibly be. We got, I don't know how many rookie drafts you got going on right now, but my phone blows up every 13 seconds. And it's the best time of the year.
Special shout out to our admin over at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone, Neil. I like how he turned them all on at once. And so at this point, I mean, we're like talking like I'm like in like 10 of these drafts. So literally every hour, I would say every hour, I'm going in and I'm going through all the leagues still drafting, making sure that's the only way I can keep up.
You don't have notifications on, do you?
If I had notifications turned on, I'd jump out the basement window.
See, I do. I turned it off during the NFL draft because they were announcing picks before they came up, and that pisses me off more than anything. So I turned them off for a little bit. But now that the drafts are there, I would not be able to keep up if I had to just go through and pick each one to see which one I'm on the clock for. You're a psychopath.
Yeah, no, I can't. I mean, I love the Dynasty WarZone. I love the patrons. The patrons are the ones who, in fact, keep this thing rolling. This machine goes at a strong pace because of the patrons that support us over at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. So I love being in there. They're all super kind. That's how they get me. They tag me in the group chat, and I literally will go right in. I mean, not always. Like Tuesday night, I was in the batting cage with my son, and obviously I have the day job, but more often than not, if they need me, I'm there. But speaking of special events and surprises, we are a day removed from your birthday. Now, happy belated birthday. Now, in fairness, I did wish you a happy birthday in the patron group chat. How was your birthday? Mrs. Jerry, everybody in your life treat you okay, buddy?
Yeah, we were good. I mean, I worked, but you try to forget when you turn 35.
Well, I mean, you can legally run for president of these United States.
You know what? I never even thought about that. Unfortunately for me, I'm absolutely not qualified, but I guess that's sort of been the case for the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 presidents. So I guess we're good.
I'd like to thank you for killing off the joke I was getting ready to steer right into. And you said, I'm not qualified. I'm like, mister, you've not been any less qualified than the last two guys to have that role. I mean, you manage people, you manage a budget, you manage a lot of different things. And I think you'd do fine. I think you'd have. Wait a minute. Someone in the chat asked, "Are you Canadian? Are you Canadian?"
Well, I mean, listen, I got the old English D, so we're honorary Canadians. I think we might be born with dual citizenship. I'm not certain entirely. But what we are certainly not is subject to no monarch. Get out of here. Who is it now? It's not even. Oh, it's Charles, King Charles. Get out of here, Charles.
Yeah, we're just we're rowdy. We're rowdy people. But I'm gonna give Jerry a minute to get buckled in, ready to talk about his man DeAndre Swift. But before I do, if you were subscribed to our YouTube channel, Dynasty WarZone, literally go to YouTube, search Dynasty WarZone. Now on Wednesday, you got an audio podcast, but you could have gotten that podcast like 3 days earlier because sometimes these takes can get stale. Nothing we can do about them. But oh god, I already got someone in the chat giving me the business about Levis. Christian, we talked about Levis on Sunday show. So go listen to the Player Profiler podcast or Dynasty WarZone podcast. I've already moved him, Christian. I've already moved him. But speaking of Player Profiler YouTube, that's where we were on Sunday. That's where we talked about our rookie winners and losers. And Jerry made me own up to my Will Levis love. In fairness to me, I did move him to QB4 from a much higher position. I'll just say that. And
I've drafted him twice, though.
I mean, I'm going to have shares. I mean, he's been going around the 111. I don't mind it. If you need a QB, I mean, you're good GM. I like Rand Carthen. I like Mike Vrabel. I'm going to say nice things about Traylon Burks and Chigakonkwa in the body of the show. So please don't make me do it twice. But this is just a way, and like the interaction with Christian, with Mike, with the guys in the live stream, in the group chat, that's helping us out. So even though Christian's giving me the business about my love of Will Levis, he's helping us. He's interacting with us live during the live feed. So he asked me a question, not worth the late first then question mark or early second. Here's the thing. It's not really what I think. I can tell you, we were just talking, what, Jerry? We've both done probably at least 10 to 12 rookie drafts each. And I've seen him go anywhere from 108 to 111. So I think that's about the right range for him. I mean, once you get past Jordan Addison at the 107, the 108 can be as team dependent as you want it to be. You need a quarterback, cool. You need a running back, you need a wide receiver. Yeah, you can quote unquote reach on some guys there at 108, 109, 110 and a super flex. So once you get past 107, it feels pretty gross anyway. So just take what you need.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I feel like 108's a good spot for him. I mean, it might be a little bit too much because you're not going to get an immediate return, but just when you look at who you're going to have to take otherwise, like Zay Flowers is a great prospect, but you got to deal with Lamar there. So I mean, either way, it's going to feel icky no matter who you go with. So,
well, I'll give you an example.
I think I took Levis at 8 in the league that I took him.
I'll give you a real life example. So I'm in a league that I won last year. I won it with Tom Brady and Geno Smith. I have a hurt Matt Stafford on the bench. Well, Matt Stafford should be coming back, and I'll still have Geno. My QB 3-4 in this league are Jacoby Brissett and Sam Darnold. Now, both these guys should play a handful of games this year. Maybe I can band-aid together a QB3 in case of bad weather or, like a snowstorm or something, bad rain in Seattle, whatever that is with Geno. But I'm there at 111, and I'm looking. We got to start 3 wide receivers in this league, and I really like Marvin Mims, as you know. And I'm looking at Marvin Mims, Kendre Miller, and Will Levis. And ultimately, I settled on Will Levis. Again, I won the league last year. This should be this particular Dynasty team's last year in a contending format. I've got Austin Eckler. I've got Miles Sanders. I've got a couple of other, veteran running backs. I've got Cooper Kupp. I've got Stephon Diggs. Now, luckily, I've got, young guys like Brandon Ayuk and Garrett Wilson coming up behind him. I've got George Kittle. I've got some young guys behind him. But the body of this team, this is my last year contending. So ultimately, I'm like, I'm going to do well this year. So I'm not going to be able to draft like a Drake or a Caleb Williams next year. So if I don't get a quarterback this year with this 111, even if he hits or doesn't hit, I've got to take the shot. So that's where I went Will Levis, the first Will Levis share I got. Because
what other trends have you seen so far? I mean, I know we've got a topic today, but it just, I'm curious to sort of the guys you've been picking.
I've been getting a lot of Michael Wilson. We talked last time, good people, bad tweets, and it was a Chad Parsons tweet talking about, diversification and the pros and cons. He doesn't seem to be very, very pro diversification, but with these rookie tight ends, I've been getting a mix of everybody. Now, obviously, if I'm taking a tight end super early, I probably go Kincaid, but if Kincaid's off the board, I'll randomly go. Sometimes it's Musgrave, sometimes it's Laporta, sometimes it's Mayer. I want a little exposure to all of those guys because, as we know, rookie tight ends and tight ends in general, the hit rate's not good. So I've been bouncing back and forth between those 3 guys. Luke Schoonmaker, Michigan guy, tight end.
Schoonmaker.
Thank you, I've never been good with the English language, Jerry. This is not new or news. But
Michigan State picked him off on the last play. I'll never forget that guy.
He is shooting up draft boards. I'm telling you, he is slingshot. Is that a verb? He has slingshotted past Darnell Washington as the tight end 5 in this class. And a lot of people I was listening to like a non-fantasy related football podcast. I think it was Mark Schlereth, and he was really singing this kid's praises. So I'm going to answer one more question because this is going to be our Sunday night topic over on the Player Profiler YouTube feed. We're going to be talking about all the recaps we've seen from our own Dynasty, rookie drafts. Like I said, by the time we get there on Sunday, I'll have at least 12 to 15 in the bank, and so will Jerry. So we'll be able to give you some pretty accurate data if maybe your rookie, your league's rookie draft isn't until like later in the month. I know Memorial Day is a good weekend for rookie drafts. It's a 3-4 day weekend. You can draft from the lake or the water or what have you. So we'll have a full recap on Sunday. How's that, Jerry? Does that work for you?
That works for me.
But I said I was going to answer Christian's last question. What are my thoughts on Jayden Reed? He's a steal. For whatever reason, people are really happy to take guys like Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, and guys like that, and I don't get it. I heard the Podfather. I listened to the Sonic Truth today with him and Theo and Alan, and they're very pro Jalen Reed, and I am too. He just has to beat out.
They are very much pro Jalen Reed. He's one of that tier of wide receiver. That's my diversifying tier. The Marvin Mims, the Jayden Reed, the Johnny Mingos, all those guys in there. Those are the guys that I'm diversifying. I was surprised that Jayden Reed went top 50. But also, he never really had great QB play at Michigan State. He never really had great QB play at the Senior Bowl, and he still did awesome. And, it is yet to be seen if Jordan Love is going to give him great QB play, but he's got an opportunity to be the wide receiver 2 there immediately, and potentially the highest producing wide receiver on that offense. And you're getting him at a late first if you believe in him, or early seconds. So
Jayden Reed? Go look at some of your drafts. I'm telling you, I think I'm right in the middle.
You got to remember, I also have drafts with Michigan State people too.
That is fair. You are an alumni of Michigan State. What I've seen in my leagues, I have seen that I am somewhere in between what Matt and Theo and Alan are on him, and Christian said JJ Zacharysen's high on him as well. And what I've seen him going mid to late third, and then those guys over at the Sonic Truth
are dumb in my defense.
Are talking late second. I'm fine with that. To me, it just to your point, I'm diversifying all these guys. I'm diversifying Jayden Reed, Josh Downs. I'll tell you who's really growing on me a little bit. Jalen Hyatt.
Don't have any. Okay. I don't have any downs yet, but
I've gotten a couple of Jalen Hyatts, and what I like about him is that dog factor. They've been showing that video, that tweet of him and the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver coach going around, where that guy's talking about he's just speed, and he's like, no, I'm not just speed. I kind of like that. I kind of like that belief in yourself. So I would say in that mid-second to mid-third, just diversify. Take the guys you like. Get a little bit of everybody. Don't have 10 of one guy. Like, don't go all Jayden Reed. Don't go all Marvin Mims. Get a mixture.
Right. Our man Jesse Schneeman said it best in the Patreon chat the other day when he said, there is no reaches in the second round of this rookie draft. Take the guys you want. Because I've never heard some wiser shit, and I got Marcus Aurelius on the table right behind me. And he is honestly wiser than him.
I had a similar type feel. I feel like in a super flex after 106, that is a tier. I feel like 107 through 207, that's a tier. It doesn't really matter who you take. You should probably be because that's where the 3 big quarterbacks, Bijan, Gibbs, and JSN are gone. After those 6 are gone, fellers, ladies, that's a tier. Just pick one, grab a hold of the one you like, get a little bit of all of them, and I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get into your guy. I don't have a good person, bad tweets tonight, although I will be sharing some of the tweets I tweeted about this guy from Sunday after the trade. But, Jerry, you are a lifelong Lions fan, long-suffering. Mm-hmm. You're only 35, so you might have still been in like junior high the last time they made the playoffs. Maybe early 20s. No. They had that year with Stafford. Yeah, there was that one Stafford.
I think it was 2014 was the last time.
Okay, so you were in your mid to late 20s. I nailed it.
Yeah.
I nailed it. So what were your thoughts when Swift became a Lion, and how have the last, 3 seasons in Honolulu Blue changed your perspective?
Well, I thought the Lions were going to ruin him when they drafted him. They didn't. The problem is he just wasn't available enough. So that is what it is. The problem is I don't think his situation has changed a ton. Philadelphia is much sexier and they rush it a lot more. And guess what? Jalen Hurts is going to do the exact same shit to DeAndre Swift that he did to Miles Sanders, because Miles Sanders profiles as a great receiving back and a good between the tackles runner. He was an awesome prospect coming out, just like DeAndre Swift was. And just like DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts is standing there and he's always going to touch the ball. So if the opportunity comes where he can run it into the end zone, he's going to do it. So I don't think it's a bad thing for DeAndre Swift. I don't think it's a good thing either. He's the same. He's going to be a great RB2 that's probably a little bit more expensive than that.
I mean, for me, I think the best thing for me to share with the listeners, first of all, if you want a stat by stat, because I spent way too much goddamn time on Sunday on Pro Football Reference digging through the Philadelphia offense over the last 2 seasons with Jalen Hurts, because that was the first season was half Nick Sirianni, half Shane Steichen. And then last season was all Shane Steichen. But I'm going to paraphrase the numbers. If I get a decimal point or a number off a little bit, please forgive me. But over the last 2 seasons, Jalen Hurts has represented 40% of the rushing touchdowns. He's had 10 one year and 13 the next. And that is 40% of all of the rushing touchdowns in Philadelphia. So just walking in there,
so not a lot of back double digits.
Back to back, 10 and 13 in 2 years. And the year he had 13, which was last year, he missed like 2.5 games with a shoulder injury because they were so far ahead in the division and the NFC that there was no need to press him, and gave him some time to get healthy for the playoff run. So that in of itself is concerning. Second of all, total rush attempts. He had like 29% of the total rushing attempts. So I went through, I took all of the total receptions and all of the total running back rush attempts over the last 2 years. And over the last 2 years per game, the running backs touched the ball an average of 27.5 times per game. Now that's a 2-year sample, guys. That's not huge, but it's all I got because he's only been the starter for the last 2 years. Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni were only there for 2 years. Could the offense evolve? Hell, I guess. I guess if it's not broken, don't fix it mentality for me. So there's not a lot. So you take that 28 total running back touches. And now you got to chop that up 4 ways, because I don't think they're going to cut anybody, because Swift isn't healthy normally. Rashad Penny's not normally healthy. The head coach wears a Kenneth Gainwell t-shirt, and I believe they really like Boston Scott. So I think all 4 of those guys will be on the roster. How many actually dress or listed as active on Sundays? I don't know. But I know that, let's say you give him 10 touches. That's 40% of the 28 touches. So what's he do with them? We know he's not going to get the goal line work, because we know Jalen Hurts is going to take a lot at the goal line, and that's probably Rashad Penny. He's not guaranteed to get all of the passing down work. Oh, by the way, over 2 seasons, Jalen Hurts averages 69 pass attempts to the running backs a year. So, I mean, that's about 3.5 pass attempts per game. So he's chopping that up potentially with Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell. This is not my opinion. These are just the numbers that I've extrapolated and pulled out of the Philadelphia offense the last 2 years. My plan in Dynasty with DeAndre Swift is this right here. I'm going to let everybody get really high because they assume. And remember, in the military, they will teach you assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. They're going to assume this is a good landing spot because Philadelphia is a good offense. That part's true. But what percentage of the work he's going to get, no one really knows. And I think by about Halloween, he's going to be disappointing some GMs and some Dynasty gamers. That's when I'm going to try to buy DeAndre Swift, because next year in March, he's going to be a free agent. You know who's unhappy in LA with the Chargers, Jerry?
Austin
Eckler is unhappy in LA with his current situation. He may seek his entertainment elsewhere. You know who would fit that Austin Eckler role beautifully in LA with the Chargers as a 25-year-old free agent?
Don't tease the people like that.
I don't. I'm not. What's his name? It starts with a T. The general manager of the LA Chargers, but that would be a replacement. A guy looking to rebound his career. You could probably get him on a 2-3 year deal, kind of that David Montgomery 3 for 18. A couple of years ago, Melvin Gordon signed a 2 for 12. That kind of deal, kind of a prove it deal. That's perfect. That's what I'm doing with DeAndre Swift. I'm not anti DeAndre Swift. I just don't think that because the Philadelphia offense is good, yes, that it automatically translates to fantasy and dynasty success. Jerry, what are your thoughts on my take?
I think it's fine. I think I am anti DeAndre Swift, though. I mean, even if he was a Lion and we didn't have Jahmyr Gibbs, I still would have been anti DeAndre Swift. He just gets hurt too much. And he's always going to be spicy because he was a sexy prospect who got drafted in rookie drafts really early. And he's never been that. And I really don't think he's ever going to be that. And so for that reason, I'm good. There's if he could be a value at some point, he's absolutely someone I would go for. I cannot foresee that being the case.
This is why I have a ton of Miles Sanders. I knew this was going to be
exactly.
a bad spot.
And Josh Jacobs a couple years ago, or not even, like 16 months ago, Josh Jacobs was so if he could do that, because Josh Jacobs was a former 101.
Well, this is why I was nabbing Miles Sanders. Now, Miles Sanders pulled the okie doke on me and finished as like the RB 14 or something last year in full point PPR, even though he didn't get a lot of pass volume. This is what I'm trying to do. Like, this is a dynasty move before we get into the winners and losers. Go in and look at players, wide receivers, running backs, people that you like that have been in bad situations. Mike Gesicki is one for me. Before we go there, I'll talk about Mike Gesicki. I've loved Mike Gesicki. He's been in a beautiful location to live. You know, Miami is great. I've been to Miami a couple of times on vacation. It's beautiful. I wouldn't want to live there, but it's nice to visit. And he's not been used to what I think. I'm really hoping that he gets used in New England the way that Evan Ingram got used down in Jacksonville last year. I'm really hoping for that type of rebound. So if there's a guy out there that you really like and he's been in a bad spot and he's on the last year of his deal, those are the guys that I'm trying to acquire right now. Because when they hit the open market, you're either going to get a buzz trade, meaning like the landing spot's going to create buzz, or they could potentially land in a better landing spot and you might be able to get another year or two of usage out of them. And that's kind of what I'm going to do with DeAndre Swift. I wouldn't touch him right now. I would either hold or sell because the value is high. You can sell the green helmet with the silver wings on it, Jerry, because I don't think it's going to be great for point scoring season. It's cool. It looks good. It looks good when he's lined up with Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Goddard and all those guys. It just looks great on a poster. But when it comes,
he's going to be good. It's just he's not going to be as good as his value is, and that's why
I think everybody who's got a Philadelphia running back is going to be lying to themselves this year, whether that's seasonal or dynasty. You're going to be looking at that roster. You're going to be looking at that RB3 spot. You're going to be looking at that flex spot, and you're going to be like, "This is DeAndre Swift week. This is a DeAndre. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. You know, they're going to be behind. It's going to be a competitive
4.6 points.
Yeah, it's exactly right. He's going to kick. Now, in a best ball dynasty league or a best ball seasonal league, via con Dios, go with God. Do your thing. But in a league where I have to hit the submit start
action, okay.
Hey, you know, I'm an educated man. Now you really hate me. So that's what I'm doing with DeAndre Swift. I don't hate DeAndre Swift. I actually have a DeAndre Swift plan. You good with that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go into the rookies, but real quick, just want to remind you one more time about the Patreon. Patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. The rookie drafts have been great, but can I tell you my favorite part of rookie season? Keep it real with you. I love the conversations, the text messages, the DMs, the phone calls, the conversations with our patrons who are in their own rookie drafts, asking questions, making trades. Hey, Memphis, what would you do here? Hey, what would you XYZ? You know, I love it. I absolutely love, because I get I enjoy helping people. That's why I got into doing content in the first place. But to have that one-on-one time, I've got a 40-minute, depending on traffic, could be longer, a 40-minute commute, more than enough time to have conversations about Dynasty. I don't know what other patrons offer, nor do I care. Ours is $5. It's patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. And because of our great Australian contingent, thanks to the WhatsApp, I have conversations all the time with our international gamers. We got them from Iceland. We got them from Great Britain, a lot of Aussies. So if you're thinking, man, there's no way these guys could help me because I live in Bangladesh, try me. Just try me. And try us over at patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. It is a tremendous way of helping the show. Now, Jerry, I kind of see DeAndre Swift and his GMs as taking it on the chin. So we're going to start rough and we're going to get positive. We're going to get positive at the end. We're both going to give you 3 winners. We're both going to give you 3 losers. We're going to start with losers, Jerry. Who is it? Now, when I wrote out all the people in total that I thought were losers, maybe you added to it. There was one guy that I saved for you. And I'm going to see if that's where you start.
Guess who I'm going to talk about?
Kenneth
go ahead. Walker. Unfortunately,
it's a bummer, dude. What are your thoughts? Where did you have him in your RB rankings before the NFL draft, and then where do you have him now?
I had him at 3 behind JT and Breece Hall, and he's not there now. I don't know where he's at, but I promise you he's not there. And it's not that I don't think he's better than Zach Charbonnet. I do. But Zach Charbonnet is also good. And they clearly love the man, which is why they took him in the 2nd round. So they've got plans for him, which means this is not going to be a workhorse situation. And one of the things that made the man so fabulous is that he got tons of work. I mean, he's got a nose for the end zone. He's more explosive than Zach Charbonnet is. I mean, he's great at finding the end zone, but so is Zach Charbonnet. Like, Zach Charbonnet is a fighter, and he fights for every inch that he can. It's gross. Like, I would love for this game to be easy. Like, if this was 2006, you could just have a running back, and they would just win you championships, and it was a wonderful time to be around. And now that we're in 2023, that entire position, the NFL just spits in your face. They don't want us to have nice things. They want to make it hard on us. An absolute home run if one of them gets hurt. But in the meantime, standalone value, 100%, they both got clobbered. There was a chance Zach Charbonnet was the RB2 in this class and could get drafted as high as 104, 105. And he plummeted, which we talked about on the Sunday show. And then you got Kenneth Walker, who people like me had at Dynasty RB3. Just about everybody had him in the top 10. I mean, is he still an RB1? I mean, his age and his production would suggest he's probably still belongs in there, but you don't feel good
Kenneth
about
Walker?
It. Yeah.
You gotta relax there, Eeyore. He's not he's still my RB6. And then I listened to Theo, Matt, and Allen, and they're right in that same pocket with me.
Listen, I think he's better than Zach Charbonnet, but that percentage of his touches is getting crushed. Rashad Penny was A, Rashad Penny. B, he got hurt because he's Rashad Penny, and that was all Kenny last year. That's not the case with Charbonnet. It's gross. I hate it. Maybe I'm Chicken Little and the sky is falling, but I hate it.
Well, hold on, Eeyore. Jerry's over here like, well, Kenneth Walker got destroyed. There's
no refuting that.
I'm gonna go stick my head in a hole now. He got
destroyed more than any other veteran did.
Do you remember what non-fantasy football topic we discussed at the end of the Player Profiler YouTube stream the other night? Classic wrestling heels, right?
Yeah.
And you know who my favorite was? It was one of my favorites was Ric Flair, right?
Yeah.
You know what Ric Flair used to say, Jerry?
What he used to say? Woo!
Well, that's yes, for sure. Woo. You're too close to the mic, by the way. But to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I feel like Kenneth Walker is the man. And I think when they walk in there, now can Zach Charbonnet be a pest? Sure he can. But the more I listen and the more I think about it, it's like They had to have an RB2. Did they have to? This kind of felt like they got it disjointed and out of order. So if you have him at 10, I think you're too low. I would like to buy some of your Kenneth Walker. I'm going to value him right around RB6. I think it's still going to be a good offense. I think he's still going to get a 65% touch share there in Seattle. Now, if someone gets injured, there's nothing I can do about that. But I'm easily not as in as I was. I mean, all pre-NFL draft season, I was like, he's my RB2-3, depending on the day. He's right there in that. He was right there in that pocket with Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Bijan, Barkley, and then he was right there, and now he's not right there. So he's still right there, 5'6" for me, Jerry.
Okay. It pisses me off, though. Who was yours?
Oh, my first one's Mark Andrews. And
really?
100%. And let me hit you with some data with this, okay? I like Mark Andrews. We need more good tight ends in the NFL. We need
That's why
more.
You've pissed me off, because there's only three of them, and he's one of them.
He's probably in most people's top 3 or 4. It's going to be some combination of Pitts, Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle. Those are, and then Hawkinson's probably, made his way up into the top 3, 4 as well. So there's your big 5. Here's my concern. No, they didn't add just one pass catcher to this offense. They didn't add 2. They added 3 because they really didn't have Rashad Bateman at all last year. So they should be getting Bateman back from the injury. They're going full Eagles here. They have another first-round wide receiver in Zay Flowers. And they signed Odell Beckham Jr., who happens to be boys with the quarterback, Lamar Jackson. So I didn't throw in the historic rushing record season of 2019. I didn't think that was fair because he rushed a lot more. They crushed everybody that year. So the pass attempts would have been down. So I took the years thereafter. And I know he didn't play all the games, but over those seasons, Lamar averaged 28 pass attempts a game. Okay. Yep. Lamar is a career passing completion guy. He completes pass. I said that way out of sync.
English is tough.
It is. It's not. It's a made up language. It's not even a good made up language. It's not even a root language of Latin, which I was speaking earlier. But in his career, Lamar completes 63.7% of his passes. So 63.7% of 28 is 18 completed passes a game. Now we're going to take 18 completed passes a game, and we're going to chop those up between Andrews, Bateman, Flowers, OBJ, and maybe 1 or 2 to the running backs. I mean, what's his target distribution? What's his catch rate? 4 or 5 a game? That doesn't mean that he's still not a top 5 tight end. I just don't think that his dynasty GMs won. Because if you have him, he's supposed to be a cheat code. He's supposed to be a Kelsey buster. He's supposed to be able to put you in that realm. So for me, I've actually moved TJ Hawkinson ahead of him in my dynasty rankings. I have to. Even with the addition of Jordan Addison, it's a much higher volume passing offense. So Hawkinson, Addison, and Justin Jefferson are splitting a much larger target distribution, a much larger pie. So that's my thinking. That's why I had him as a loser.
I can hear it. I don't think he lost a ton, but that is a pretty good argument that I can get behind. My thing is that he has the better rapport than all of those guys with Lamar Jackson, so I don't think he's going to take it on the chin as much. But there is definitely a lot more than there was last year, because last year it was Devin Duvernay and me out there. So I can dig it. Maybe that just pisses me off because I complain about tight ends all the time.
Sure.
But if you want to talk about my next guy,
complain away, sir.
So he's got already, prior to the draft last week, he already had one of the most dynamic young wide receivers with him. And then they decide to take the top wide receiver off the board. And I am, of course, talking about Tyler Lockett. He was a guy that I love to get for absolutely cheap because he's never been sexy, ever. He's like a hamburger. Dynasty players, they love the sizzle. And if they can get the steak, they love to build around the steak. But you can win championships. Those wide receiver 2, 3 flexes, those sort of things can be won with nice, just delicious cheeseburgers, pepper jack, maybe some A1 sauce on it a little bit. And that was Tyler Lockett. He was a wonderful value, and it's dead because they have DK Metcalf and they have Jackson Smith and Jigba, two of the most polarizing elite prospects that have come out in the last 4 or 5 years. And he's 31? And he's never been all that great. He's sort of just been the other guy. He's like a Marvin Jones plus. Like, he's a little better than Marvin Jones.
He's a dynasty cockroach.
Yeah, like he's keeping around. And he got punched out. And listen, it'll take Jackson Smith and Jigba a month to sort of get used to the game, torch a corner or two, get some confidence, and then it's off to the races. And Tyler Lockett will have 3 games where he's useful next season. And then all of a sudden, you'll just stop hearing about Tyler Lockett. He'll just fade into existence. He'll just be Jordy Nelson, just bye.
Well, I'm looking at his dead cap. He's going to be there this year, next year. That or they're going to want to eat $14.1 million of dead cap in 2024. Here, can I give you a little good news before I get into my second guy?
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett probably wasn't worth more than like a mid-second anyway.
Correct.
And he was really only valued to a select handful of GMs that were like in a contending window. You were counting on him to be you were counting on him to be like your wide receiver 3-4 bye week filling guy. So I understand that, but can I give you a little silver lining?
Okay. You could try.
Geno finished 8th in the league last year with just over 600 pass attempts per game. So that's 35. That's 35 pass attempts a game. I don't have his completion percentage. Let's say he's also 64%, right there with Lamar. That means he's going to complete 22 balls a game. So between DK, Tyler Lockett, the rookie, I don't think Noah Fant's ever going to be a thing. I don't want to alarm anybody. But you know what? If Tyler Lockett gets you 5,
I'm still holding strong though. But yeah,
5 for 80, 4 for 70. Does that feel like that'd be okay? Could you get by with that as like your wide receiver 4-ish?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So there you go. I talked you down off the mountain. Don't you feel better?
Listen, that's you did well. You didn't do it the first time.
I'm soothing you, Jerry.
My Kenneth Walker shares. I'm still ready to jump, but.
Well, you have a third loser, so before you kick the shit out of any more Seattle Seahawks, let me talk about a Chicago Bear, because I think Khalil Herbert was a real loser, not only in the draft, but in the free agency period as well. Deonta Foreman 1-year deal, okay, but then they went and drafted Roschon Johnson, and I'm very cognizant, I'm very aware of the Roschon Johnson hype. You know, the guys at Player Profiler, whether that be Cody Carpentier, check out his rookie guide, by the way, $10. You know, Jerry, on Fridays, I like to treat myself. That's like my one, like I go out to lunch at work. I go get a half-pound roast beef sandwich, fries, and a large
Arby's,
drink.
Man.
Dude, Arby's is great. It's a meat.
You're the only human being that still eats Arby's, but
then I'm keeping the
only one that keeps them going.
Then I'm keeping the one at 71st and Georgetown Road in Indianapolis in business with my Friday $10. But actually, it's like $10.72. So really, like this Friday, if I just pack my lunch, I could get Cody's rookie guide. Literally for like I'm sacrificing a combo meal and I'm getting a guide.
And you can save yourself from some diarrhea too. So that's great.
Well, no, I've never had. Man, what's wrong with your? One of these days, we're gonna do a fast food draft at the end of one of these shows. But let me get back to Khalil Herbert and stop pimping Cody Carpentier's rookie guide and Arby's sandwiches. God damn it, Khalil Herbert. You know, the thing I heard the other day that really made me nervous is not just Foreman, not just Roschon, but he was not drafted by Ryan Poles. He was drafted by the previous administration. Now, part of Roschon's allure was the pass catching. We know that the majority of running quarterbacks, it's the same reason why I'm down on DeAndre Swift. I don't think Roschon's going to get a lot of passing down work, but I think he's a guy he's a big leader. Everything I've heard about him, he's a good leader. I think he'll have a good voice in the huddle. I think that it's not going to be hard for him to come in. And I think that, and again, search at DWZ Memphis and Khalil Herbert on Twitter. I was pretty interested in this guy back in January. but I got to be honest. I thought Monty leaving was good. I didn't think Deontay Foreman was a huge barrier. But when you add Foreman and you add Roschon, I think it spells bad news for Khalil Herbert. That's not to say that he couldn't start the season as the starter, but he's someone that you probably got pretty cheap in Dynasty. It's time to cash out. Can you get a 24-second? If you're not counting on him being a big contributor, and maybe even if you are, I think it's time to get out of the Khalil Herbert business, Jerry.
Yeah, and if somebody doesn't necessarily believe in Roschon because he got drafted in the 4th round, you should be able to get some value from him. That said, I like Roschon. He's like the last running back I'll draft that I care about. So every time I can get him, I'm happy, because after that, I just wouldn't touch the position. But my last guy, it is not going to be a Seattle Seahawk. I have run out of them. It is going to be 2 guys, because it's Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. They're not Sean Payton's guys. They have not been unbelievable. And believe it or not, Randy, I don't want to surprise anybody that's listening to this show, or you, while you listen to me ramble, that we like Marvin Mims. And, there's a chance maybe he is 3rd on this list, and Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy stay ahead of him. I just can't imagine that to be true, because neither of those guys have really done anything in their careers. Now, granted, Jerry Jeudy's is much shorter than Courtland Sutton's, but I mean, this new regime wanted to bring Marvin Mims in. They saw Courtland Sutton. They saw Jerry Jeudy, and they still thought, after having a piss poor year last year, that one of their first needs needed to be a wide receiver. And it's somebody that can create separation. It's hard to say that Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy didn't sort of take it in the mouth. I mean, it was they already were not sexy. Yeah, they took it in the mouth. They have not been sexy in a long time, and they've just been boring. And this did no good for their dynasty value. It was hard to trade either of these 2 guys before. And then they brought in another wide receiver, and now they're just sitting on your roster nobody's trading for them. So they're
the challenge. I want to hit you with the challenge. Have there been 2 wide receivers, especially teammates? Because we could say that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase have exceeded expectations of what a wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 can do. It's really, in my opinion, been the best. That one miracle season with Antonio Brown and your boy Juju Smith-Schuster. Has there been a bigger disappointing tandem at the wide receiver position in the NFL? Now, there's been some injury issues with both of them. I understand that. And then there was the Nathaniel Hackett. But it just feels like Courtland Sutton came out like in 2018, 17, 18?
Yeah.
And we're still waiting. He had like one good season, and we're still waiting. And it feels like either or neither of these guys could be on this team in a year or 2. And again, I tweeted this out on Friday night during the draft. It says a lot that when Sean Payton's first draft pick, not skill position guy, not pass catcher, the first guy overall, it's like, hey, we have 5 picks. You know who we need to trade up for? Marvin Mims. I'm telling you, this could end up being and I don't want to do all these crazy comps. This could be Russ's new Tyler Lockett. A guy that's like a seam stretcher, a guy that can get over the top, a guy with good speed. He's a guy that I comp to T.Y. Hilton. I think he's a lot more of a versatile pass catcher than people think. And I think before it's all said and done, Jeudy or Sutton's on a new team this year.
I think it's a little spicy, but I don't think it's crazy. And listen, maybe with Sean Payton, one of them can blow up, but I've got history on my side that would suggest it's not. And the NFL, the Denver Broncos told me what they thought of them when they took Marvin Mims. I'm not going to ignore that information.
All right. Well, let's wrap up one more concern of mine, and then we'll get into some winners. How about that?
Okay.
And I got to say something nice about Treylon Burks. Stick around, because it's actually gonna happen.
Look at this guy.
I'm concerned not from a real football standpoint, but from a fantasy football standpoint. I'm worried about Michael Pittman and JT.
You son of a bitch.
Particularly JT. He was my RB1 last week pre-NFL draft. I've moved him to my RB2 in a startup for Dynasty. By the time the season gets here, he could be RB3. Because currently, right now, I've got Breece Hall, JT, Bijan. Those are my top three. But here's the thing: we know that rushing quarterbacks steal goal line work. Would you agree? We've seen Lamar do it. We've seen Josh Allen do it. We've seen Jalen Hurts do it. We've
Justin
seen
Fields. Yep.
It's a thing. Cam
It's
Newton did it. It's
yeah.
what they do. So he's not going to get those 18 touchdowns that he had 2 years ago. But here's the part that really bothers me, that we low key forget what his involvement was in the passing game in Indy. As a rookie, he had 36 catches. In his RB1 season 2 years ago, he had 40 catches, and last year he had 28 catches in 11 games. And the full seasons that he played, he averaged just over 300 yards per season when he played a full season. Well, if you're getting what is that? You're getting 40 catches, so there's 40 points at PPR. You're losing 300 yards. Where does that 70 points in a season just gone? Now he'll still get a couple of catches here or there. He's not going to lose all of it. But I'm telling you, that could drop down to a third of that number. And
so why Pittman then?
Same reason.
Because that one's going to piss me off more than JT. Because I can agree with JT, but also maybe offenses don't have to focus as much on JT if they have to worry about the rushing of Anthony Richardson. So he may get less touchdowns, but he could at least
he could snap
have better opportunities. But the Pittman thing is going to piss me off. So go ahead.
Well, okay. I love what they did for Anthony Richardson. I love what they did for the actual Colts. But for fantasy football, do you think you're going to get more or less passing volume in Indy now?
Can it be worse though? I mean, Matt Ryan had like 3,000 yards and
but he was
15
throwing the ball
touchdowns or something.
48 times a game.
I mean, I agree, but if you throw it into the dirt, it doesn't do much for you either way. I'm not the biggest Anthony Richardson guy in the world. Don't get me wrong. Scared to death of him, even for Dynasty and for your fandom. But Matt Ryan was fucking butthole last year.
But again, this is I just see less passing volume. Now, luckily, he is the one, so he is insulated to that degree. But I've heard Mike Lombardi. I love Mike Lombardi. He actually has some very good insight on the NFL with these mobile quarterbacks. He says these mobile quarterbacks need big, wide, run after catch wide receivers, which Michael Pittman is. But they've also got Alec Pierce. They've also got Josh Downs. They've also got Jelani Woods, Mo Alley Cox. I mean, I'm not going to go with the mouths to feed analogy, but there's a lot of guys, and it's not like Peyton Manning back there where he's going to progress and make 3 reads. He's going to make 1 read and go. So some of that improvisational skills, I think he's going to see a dramatic dip in volume. That's my concern, is the overall volume, the passing volume of the offense is going to go way down.
I think he's probably going to stay the same, which is unfortunate because I wanted to see him increase, obviously, because he had like 99 catches or something last year and like 900 yards, and year one was like 1,000 yards or something. So I wanted to see him take that leap. And I'm with you that I think the offense is going to struggle a little bit because they have a rookie, and they have a rookie who's not exactly known for, completing tons of passes.
I just don't see another 141 targets.
I can live with that.
Maybe the receiving touchdowns go up. He only had 4 last year, but
I think long term this is still better for Michael Pittman than just trying to patch old guys together just with fucking bubblegum and shoestrings. I can hear you saying he's still not gonna be sexy. He's not sexy at this point, even as a young wide receiver. But
once the Indy offense gets that low passing volume stank on it, that's going to be the narrative next offseason.
Yeah.
So once that low passing volume stank is on you, I mean that's what we were just talking about with Mark Andrews. That's the now hopefully Shane Steichen in 2 years can bring him around. Plus he's going to be a free agent, so maybe there's a positive. I just didn't love it because I think it brings the overall. I think they're going to slow the game down. It's more run focused. Games with running clocks tend to have less overall plays. The defense is pretty good. I'm worried about the overall volume in Indy. But Jerry, let's get positive. Let's get happy. Let's get you out of Eeyore phase. Give me a guy that's got you fired up.
I mean, I sort of talked about him earlier. For the same reasons that I don't like Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, I love Russell Wilson. And everybody hates Russell Wilson. And I've already accumulated 3 shares during this draft because I will take the old and busted guy who's got at least 3 capable wide receivers, and he's got Sean Payton, and he has a history of being successful as a dynasty asset. On top of the fact that people hate him, yeah, I'll zig when they're zagging every single time. I mean that's my man, and I'm gonna lump Kirk Cousins into the same thing, just so I don't got to talk about 2 quarterbacks in this section. Bro's got Justin Jefferson, Bro's got Jordan Addison, and people don't like him.
Would it be crazy to say that of those 2, from a dynasty standpoint, I would prefer Russ over Kirk Cousins? Is that crazy? Is that a hot take?
I don't think it's crazy. They're probably pretty close for me. And I'll have a shitload of them. Did I trade for Kirk earlier? I did. I traded for Kirk Cousins earlier today.
Yeah,
easy peasy,
the reason
man.
why I ask is that, Kirk Cousins is in the final year of his deal, and they're going to have to extend Justin Jefferson, and they're going to have to back up a Brinks truck. Not to say that they maybe won't re-sign Kirk. That's not what I'm saying. But we know with Russell's contract, he's going to be there for a long ass time. And I'm looking right now in just standard ESPN scoring. What is that? 1 point for every 25 passing yards, 4-point passing touchdown, blah, blah, blah. Kirk Cousins in that format last year scored 17.1 points per game, and Russ, in a quote-unquote down year, scored 15. So Kirk Cousins was giving you 2 more points a game, but I think there's a dip you can buy on Russell Wilson. I 110% agree with Russell Wilson, and he was actually someone that I've been on as well. And I like the addition of Sean Payton. Go look at Sean Payton. So just so in Sean Payton's offenses, go to Pro Football Reference, take a look there. Look at all the top 5s. And really like a quote unquote down year is like top 10. That's a down year. His offense is in the top 10. And how did he protect Drew Brees? He added offensive lineman, guard, center, guard. Guess what the Broncos went out and did this offseason? They went out and put a ton of money in that offensive line. So I think you're going to see and I hate this because I hate Russell Wilson. Not so much as I think I kind of hate him both ways. I'm just going to be real honest. But you know what? I would not be shocked if he did not have another absolute banner year in the Mile High City. But Jerry, let me give you my guy. Now, he's not a good human. We have a lot of reasons to hate him, but it's Deshaun Watson. And I want to throw a shout out to the Podfather. So when we were invited to stream our show on the YouTube channel over at Player Profiler, I had about an hour-long conversation with Matt. And, there was some business talk and blah, blah, blah. But we were just talking about, and, he hits me. This is like 3 weeks ago. He hits me out of the blue, cold. Hey, what do you think about Jerome Ford? I was like, I don't know. I was like, he's a backup running back in Cleveland. He's like, I really like him. I was like, okay. And I was like, I hadn't really thought about Jerome Ford. He scored like 5 PPR points last year. He's like, he's a guy that if he avoids major competition in the draft, he could be a sneaky ad next year. And I was like, okay. So then today I was prepping for this show. And I was like, hey, I sent him a DM. I was like, hey, I don't know if you noticed this or not. I was like, but Jerome Ford was a low-key winner in this draft class. He sent me back a DM, goes, oh shit, I forgot all about Jerome Ford. So he's a guy that I kind of got it out of sequence. I should have sent out all my Jerome Ford offers.
True.
Then sent out the tweet praising the Podfather about his take on Jerome Ford in our conversation the other day. But I think Jerome Ford was the winner, but I think Deshaun Watson was a tremendous winner. Again, just like Russell Wilson. What did Cleveland do? I mean, it's not Cleveland. What did Denver do? They invested in the offensive line. They got him another weapon. They changed the head coach. They did things. What has Cleveland done? They're like, hey, just like Denver, we spent a shitload of money on this quarterback. We had better do the best that we can to surround him with talent. So what'd they do? They went out and traded a second for a slot wide receiver we all really like, Elijah Moore. They drafted a guy, like we weren't super high on Cedric Tillman, but I'll tell you, you'll be hard-pressed to find a non-fantasy person to really say a bad thing about Cedric Tillman. They really like him. RIP. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm gonna pour one out for DPJ, and then they got Amari Cooper. They've got David Njoku, and they've got a pretty good offensive line. I mean, and they play in a division with Joe Burrow, with Lamar Jackson, and with an offense in Kenny Pickett with, what they did in the draft. I think they're a low-key winner too. This is a division where points will be scored. Dude, I love it for Deshaun Watson. You want to hear a crazy trade I did the other day?
Shoot.
So I get the notification, hey, you have a trade alert. I'm like, okay, this is a super flex. And I've got Patrick Mahomes and fuck all else at the quarterback position. And I'm literally being offered Dak and Deshaun Watson for Patrick Mahomes. I thought about it. I double checked to make sure that, Deshaun Watson did not have another 74 suits. But it's like, man, because I looked at the rest of this roster and like this team's loaded. But I had shit at the quarterback position. I had no draft capital to do anything. And I mulled it over for about an hour. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take 2 of my QB1s for my QB1 overall. I don't love it. Patrick Mahomes scores a ton of points, but it's like, I'm not going to win this thing with, I didn't even have like a Mac Jones quality QB2. I lost Tom Brady in this league to retirement. And then I've always got a straggler, Sam Darnold.
You don't even got like a Desmond Ritter or nothing?
I don't even have a Desmond Ritter. I don't have shit.
Yeah, you got to flip him.
So you know what? I was like, like I would never split 20 playing blackjack. Like when you're playing blackjack, you got 2 face cards against the 6. I'm not going to split.
Yeah.
But in this case, I had to split 20. I didn't have any other move. We'll see how it works out for me this year, but that was my move. But yeah, I think Deshaun Watson, based on what they did in Cleveland this offseason, I think he's a clear winner.
I agree.
Jerome Ford, shout out to the Podfather. That was his. I do not steal others' work. I always like to attribute where I got things, and that was totally 100% the Podfather.
I'm going to steal my own work and just say that I love running backs that everybody seems to think are not sexy. And currently, and I don't truly understand why, Najee Harris is unbelievably disrespected. This guy has been in the league for 2 years. He had like a 1,600-yard season, and he had a 1,250-yard season, and he had 10 touchdowns in both seasons. And you would think the dude just was Todd Gurley and just straight up fell off the face of the earth. He has no competition there. He's still going to be like 25. Najee's a clear winner, and Najee is one of the easiest targets to go out and buy right now because there's an exponential number of sizzly running backs out there that are not going to produce in the same way that Najee Harris is. He can catch passes, he can run, he's got a nose for the end zone. What do you want from the man? Like he's what Josh Jacobs was 16 months ago. He's what Miles Sanders was 12 months ago. Like he's the guy that people don't love to have, and it doesn't make sense. He's young. He's highly productive. I honestly, it stupefies me that the man has fallen off in the way that he is. Like he's potentially top 6 running back. Like I'd rather have Najee Harris than Kenneth Walker.
Really? I mean, I don't.
Pretty easily actually now.
I mean, you're not concerned about the offense and blah 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 because I'm so.
I mean, they worked on their offensive line too.
I don't want to hit you with a spoiler alert, but I am doing a player for the Player Profiler world famous in quotations draft kit and Najee Harris is my guy. He's my guy for 2023. I was doing a little prognostication as to what they would do in the offseason, and they did just that. They brought in the guard from the Philadelphia Eagles. They skipped the Jets and what was one of the most cold-blooded moves of the draft, where they traded up with New England to get ahead of the Jets. So that was Uncle Bill breaking one off in the Jets like he's been doing for the last quarter century. And he thought he would just take one more swipe at him, let Pittsburgh get up. They got the tackle. They added to the offensive line. Year 2 for Kenny Pickett. And Najee, he didn't finish as an RB1 last year. He finished on the season as the RB14, so just outside of that. But he was playing with a metal plate in his foot, and he got hurt in training camp, and it was rumored to be a Liz Frank, which most of the time shuts people down. I think Najee Harris is tough as an old boot. But after their week 9 bye, he came back, and from that point on, he was the RB7. So from week 10 through week 18, he was the RB7, averaging 15 points a game. And hopefully he gets through training camp unscathed. He comes out of training camp in good shape. So I didn't take Najee. He was on the list. Like, I wrote out about 20 guys that benefited, and I agree with Najee.
I wouldn't say it's impossible that they wouldn't sign somebody else just because they don't have a ton of backups there. Like if Zeke ends up there, or like Kareem Hunt, like I would knock him down a little bit, but also I really don't think they're going to do that because they're not a poverty franchise that would overpay for running backs. But yeah, he's not out of the water yet in the competition standpoint, but just throwing that out there.
Oh, they also drafted the big athletic tight end out of Georgia, Darnell Washington, who a lot of people assume that at some point in his career will be converted to an offensive lineman. So, you talk about a lot of 12 personnel sets. You got Deontay Johnson and George Pickens out there. You got Pat Freiermuth, who's a pretty good blocker in his own right. Darnell Washington on the other tight end. All these new offensive linemen. I'm telling you, this is good stuff for Kenny Pickett. So you remember, I was talking about this back in January. I had the Pittsburgh Steelers as one of my big buy-on offenses all year, and they have done nothing to stop me from changing my mind. But this next guy that I actually have two guys because one guy's practically free. But Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine, actions speak louder than words. And Denver went out and did all these things to the offensive line. But let me read you some of the backup. And they brought in a couple of UDFAs in the draft. They only had like 5 draft picks because of all the trades and trading for Sean Payton. So they brought in a couple of guys I had never heard of. Like, if I was literally saying, so is this next guy, Jerry? I'm gonna hit you with a is this a running back on the Denver Broncos roster, or is this a guy who works at the Denver Best Buy? Tony Johnson Jr.
Best Buy.
That is Best Buy. Tony Jones Jr., on the other hand, is listed as the RB3 on the Denver Broncos, along with such RB luminaries as Demarie Crockett and Tyler Badie and a couple of, like I said, UDFAs. I didn't even bother writing down their names. That's kind of my point. It tells me that I don't think Javonte Williams is going to come back and like set the world on fire, but Samaje Perine has been more than serviceable in Cincinnati for the last couple of years. Now, not to say that they couldn't like bend me over a piece of lawn furniture and bring in a Kareem Hunt. They could bring in a Zeke. They could bring in fat Leonard Fournette. But end of the day, the moves they've made to date in free agency and in the draft tells me that Javonte's probably doing okay. He may not be like fully back to himself until like midseason, kind of like, J.K. Dobbins last year. J.K. Dobbins kind of turned it on down the stretch. But he's a guy that if I can catch a fellow owner lacking in a dynasty league, like in the early second of a Superflex league, like where maybe I'm gambling on a Kendre Miller, who I really like Kendre Miller. But if I could move the pick that would be Zach Charbonnet for Javonte Williams, I might even add like a 24 second. I'm in all day. And then if you have like, mid to late thirds where this and you're a contender and you really need like maybe you have Breece Hall. You don't have Javonte Williams. Maybe you have Breece Hall, and maybe you're concerned that he may also get off to a bit of a slower start. Go out and try to pick up Samaje Perine. He's going to be a nice little Band-Aid for you in what should be a pretty good offense. And he might get you 6-8 games this season. Are you going to pick up him or Tony Jabroni Jr. over there at Best Buy?
Tony Jabroni.
On the weekends, only on Saturdays. He has football on Sundays, but on Saturdays, he's selling TVs. But I'm telling you, based on the actions of the draft and the team, I'm kind of feeling a little bit better about Javonte Williams. Who's your last guy?
It's Antonio Gibson. I mean,
That's a good one.
They brought in a running back in the 6th round. So best of luck to him. But I mean, Brian Robinson has really never been awesome other than his many men entry and surviving gunshots, which is awesome. I mean, one of the biggest boss moves in the history of time. But his fantasy relevance came from quantity, not so much quality. And they brought in Eric Bieniemy. And if there's gonna be a running back that's gonna suit Eric Bieniemy, it's gonna be Antonio Gibson. Not to mention the fact that Antonio Gibson has just been far more efficient and far more explosive and far better than anyone else in that backfield since he has been there. And once again, not sexy, because he was sexy for a little bit and then he just became unpopular, and he's the exact kind of guy that I'm gonna zig when everybody else is zagging on. And he's even cheaper than Najee Harris. At least Najee Harris was a 101, 102 sort of asset as a rookie draft, so he's always sort of insulated. Not so much the case with former argument on Dynasty Twitter that he was a wide receiver in Antonio Gibson. So easy winner. Didn't get competition. Gained an offensive coordinator that's perfect for his system. Yes, please. Yeah, and pretty damn cheap. Like I mean, that's the perfect storm. And I'm not talking about George Clooney.
That's not a bad. It had Marky Mark in it too.
Yeah, it did.
Big Mark Wahlberg guy over here. Like me some Mark Wahlberg. But yeah, Antonio Gibson. I mean, I wrote the show sheet out today. Jerry's out being the working man, celebrating his birthday. So I just wrote out a list, and maybe we'll take the rest of this list and we'll post it over on the Patreon so they can know all of the guys that we thought we had some winners and losers from.
We call that a perk in the business.
We call that a perk of supporting the show. But Jerry, I like Antonio Gibson. I like him a lot. You think you could get him for a mid-second?
On the clock, probably.
Okay. I mean,
like if somebody sees whoever, and they're horny for him. There's a situation where somebody trades Antonio Gibson to get Roschon Johnson for sure.
Yeah, and I don't want to bury a good friend and a league mate, but we all have this league mate in our league that just loves the draft, just loves draft picks, and like. Literally the other night in a draft, I got John Mechie, who I absolutely love this year. And I love picking the brain. That's why I've had the brains of best ball players. That's why I've had Theo Grimminger in here. That's why I've had Dan Williamson in here. These guys play 4 figures. I don't want to get in Dan's pocket, but Dan may play 5 figures, buy in best ball leagues. And when a guy like Dan says, I really like John Mechie, you know what? God damn it, I really like John Mechie too, because I believe in Dan. Dan is really good at this. So, I got John Mechie for 3/3 the other day. It was the 304 and 2 future thirds, 2 of them from next year, 1 from this year, for a guy that I love. And that's my point. Like when that pick's on the clock and everybody's salivating, they're like, "Oh my, I couldn't possibly let this guy slip by." That's when you start looking for those little value nuggets in there, because people will just say, yeah, you might be on the clock at 2:07 and you might be like, do I really want to take Zach Charbonnet? Do I really? Or you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go offer this 2:07 to the guy who's got Antonio Gibson. The worst they can say is no, because you have the exact same thing going for you after they said no as you did before you asked, because you asked. The worst thing they could do is say no. So Jerry, I love Antonio Gibson. And how much of him do you have? Are you like very saturated with him? Because I'm about 50%. I'm hoping you're right.
I don't know if I'm that high, because when he came out, I wasn't high on him. He was a guy that I sort of avoided, but as he's gotten cheap and people have not loved him as much, that's what I've gone to acquire. But that number is creeping up this offseason.
Yeah, I mean,
you got a final guy?
And I don't want to. I mean,
it's funny because he's fat.
It's Treylon Burks. I actually tweeted this out on Friday, and I was like, there's no one having a more low key good off season than Treylon Burks. I mean, they let Bobby Trees walk.
Yeah,
they did re-sign Nick Westbrook-Akina, which is fine. Is it Kyle Phillips, the little slot receiver guy? Maybe he might
from Western.
He could maybe have like a little Hunter Renfrow season. But man, you look around the room and it's just Chig Okonkwo, the tight end, who I also believe was a big winner in this draft. And it's Treylon Burks. Guys, volume is king. And I went through and looked, and over the last 3 years with Ryan Tannehill, they've averaged about 30 pass attempts a game, give or take 29, 30. I'm just doing that real quick, here on the, on the podcast. So about 30 attempts a game. So same drill. Let's say Ryan Tannehill completes 65%, 63%. Well, you're talking, right around 20, 21 completions a game. Well, when you're only chopping that up a couple of ways, that's not,
because it ain't Derrick Henry either.
Derrick Henry might get a couple. I like Tajay Spears there. He might soak up a couple, but by and large, do you remember when the Houston, it's not hard to remember because it's been as recently as last fucking year. You remember when Houston was really bad and they were just constantly with bad quarterbacks, by the way, just force feeding the ball like Tom Savage to, DeAndre Hopkins. Is it hard to envision an offense? Because Tennessee's not going to be that good. They'll kind of be, very mid, both in like the literal and the figurative sense. And the thing that I love is I no longer have to worry about, is it like Joshua Dobbs or Malik Willis? There's a quarterback there that I really like. And a guy that I think
is not
that is the weirdest nickname ever. His name's Will Levis. He likes bananas with the peel.
Mayo in his coffee.
Mayo in his coffee. But this is going to be an interesting offense. But again, why did I not like Mark Andrews? What was my concern about Pittman? What was my concern about passing volume? And 30 over the last 3 years, they've been in the bottom 5 of the league in pass attempts. But that's okay because we're not chopping it up 5 ways or 6 ways. We're chopping it up 3 or 4 ways. He should do real well. So, but I will also say this: I will not be surprised if he shows up looking like a young Kelvin Benjamin in training camp. You remember that photo from about?
Oh, come on!
He could literally show up looking like Macaulay Culkin at the end of My Girl, just like covered in bee stings, like all swollen up and puffy.
You're dating yourself, but it's funny for me.
Just YouTube the end of My Girl and just throw in Macaulay Culkin bees My Girl. You'd be like, oh my God, you can't say that, but I just absolutely did. So if I'm gonna love it.
Here's what I'll say about Treylon. I think he's worth sort of diversifying with that tier of wide receivers that I talked about. Like there's guys that like right now I prefer. Like the Marvin Mims and the Johnny Ringos and Jalen Reed and stuff. But I think Treylon sort of belongs in that tier. Like there's leagues where I wouldn't want him, but then there's other times where I would like to have a few in case bro does hit.
Well, if you hear all the clicking in the background, I'm pulling up an impromptu game of Would You Rather with my co-host. Now this is directly we're up to the 401. So we have wide receivers. We're into the 4th round. This is the Ultimate Dynasty Podcasters League with good friends of the show, Rich Dotson of the Dynasty Nerds, Garrett Price of the Dynasty Nerds, Izzy Elkafas of the Dynasty Trade Calculator, the Dynasty Theory guys. I mean,
so not me. So they haven't made stupid picks. Got it.
These guys are super sharp, and I'm going to hit you with. I'm pretty sure you're going JSN over Treylon Burks.
Yeah,
same. I'm pretty sure you're going over. Yes, Jordan Addison, you're going over. But here's where it gets dicey. Here's the line: Quentin Johnston or Treylon Burks, sophomore versus a rookie.
2 people I don't like, but I think I'm going to go with QJ here.
I'm going with Treylon Burks just based off target competition.
Okay.
Because I think Treylon Burks has a better season. So who's worth more in 12 months? It's Treylon Burks. Doesn't mean they both couldn't get nuked next year in next year's draft.
Yeah.
But I got to look at that. Who's more likely to score more points this year? Treylon Burks. Therefore, who's liable to be worth more on my dynasty roster 12 months from now? Treylon Burks. Same with Zay Flowers. Same with Johnny Mingo.
I would take Treylon Burks over Zay Flowers too.
So if he were in this draft class, so if Quentin Johnston is going at the 108, now I'd be careful because again, I got Will Levis at 111. You just got to look at the needs of your roster. He's a guy like at 108. If you wanted to move that pick and go try to get Treylon Burks, go for it. 100% go for it. People, again, rookie fever is a hell of a thing. So once the Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith, and Jigba,
you could probably get a little bit of plus too. I would think just on the clock too.
Jerry, I was once told pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. You don't have to get crazy and run that other GM off. If I can get Treylon Burks, and you guys have no idea how much this hurts me to say. This hurts me, Jerry. This cuts me down to my quick. I don't like Treylon Burks, but I got to be honest. One thing you can always assure yourself here at the Dynasty WarZone is that Jerry and I are going to shoot you straight, and we're going to help you. We're going to help you do the best that you can based off the information that we have. So, I mean, that's where I'll give you 108 right now for Treylon Burks in a super flex, provided that I don't need a quarterback, and
no shenanigans have gone afoot.
Yes, Young, Stroud, Richardson, Bijan, Gibbs, JSN, and Addison are off the board. If those 7 guys are off the board, and then you're there at 108, and you don't need a QB, because if you lost Tom Brady like I did, maybe you had Tom Brady and Trey Lance, and you're up Schitt's Creek, and you're like,
you got to throw Willie on there.
You got to take the shot at Willie right there. But if you're in a good shape, maybe you've got to. Maybe you hit a home run. This is an older league. You've got Patrick Mahomes, and maybe you hit a home run with a Brock Purdy, or even like a grand.
I mean, there's a lot of people that have Lamar Jackson in that range because he won a bunch of people the first month and then didn't win them championships. So, I mean, that's sort of the range where you have Lamar.
Maybe you're hoping that Kyler Murray makes it back this year, and like you just need some depth, because if you draft Will Levis at 108, then you can turn right back around and maybe go try to pick up Ryan Tannehill cheap later. I don't know, but I will give you anything 109 or going forward.
I think that's fair.
Anything, I'll give you 108, 109, depending on who's there in a super flex, and I'll gladly take Treylon Burks. Yes, it hurts me to say it. No, I'm not happy about it, Jerry, but I'm happy that the day after your birthday, after you worked all damn day, that you came on here and did a bonus podcast with me.
Of course, man. Love it. I mean, same birthday as The Rock, which, it is one of the great things that I have going for May 2nd. Plus that thing. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for doing a bonus show. I got to talk to you twice in 4 days. I mean, that's the best birthday present I could have gotten. Not actually true. The old lady got me an espresso machine, a fucking absolute majestic purchase. That espresso.
Oh, so I thought you meant like the Nespresso, like the branding.
No,
like there's
wonderful.
I drink.
I made a cappuccino earlier. It was great.
I drink black coffee.
Fantastic. Oh, it's got a coffee pot too.
Okay,
you just mix the espresso into the coffee. Oh my god!
So this summer when I come by,
100%,
because we're playing at the Field of Dreams, we're about an hour away from you. Of course, we're going to hang out with Jerry. So I'm going to go to Jerry's place of business. I'm going to bring like 15 rowdy teenagers.
Just great.
He's gonna come watch the guys play a ball game. Jerry, I just looked at my soundboard. You know what I realized when I was talking nice about Treylon Burks? I forgot to play this drop.
Are you disgusted? I am.
When I say nice things about Treylon Burks, that's how I feel. I feel disgusted with myself. But no, man, I'm really happy. Thank you for what we're having like a really good. I can see how many people are viewing. I can really see how many people are viewing our YouTube channel. And guys, this is great. I'm hoping that this means you found us on Player Profiler and you're trying out the show. But one of our most loyal YouTube followers and patron, Mike, he wants to hear Crip Mac from the soundboard. Mike, brother, you got it.
The Crip Mac on hood.
Of course, Mike. Anything for Mike. Mike's been so loyal to us, but thank you guys for tuning in. We are filling in this week for the guys over at the Dynasty War Games. Jesse and the guys, they did double duty. They did, basically 3 shows last week between all of the first round coverage, the rounds 2 and 3 coverage, their normal show. So those guys are taking the week off to recoup and recollect themselves. So that's why you're getting Jerry and I on Thursday. But Jerry and I will be back on Sunday, and we're going to give you the full debrief, the full download from every rookie draft that we've been in, who we think are values.
I mean, I think I've made 3 picks while we did this show.
I'm probably on the clock somewhere because Neil turned 12 drafts on at once, but that's why I love Neil. Neil's great. That's because Neil's the admin of our Patreon. Patreon.
My turn to pick in Patreon 15 right now.
Patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. You could get rookie draft help from me or the man of the hour there, as well as our group chat. That's the wisdom of crowds. A lot of times you may be up at 4 a.m. because you're a third shift welder. Well, guess what? The Aussies are up. Our boy Austin's up. A lot of people are up banging around at those times of day. So group chat's always good. Draft help's always good. And it's $5 a month. Patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. And on behalf of the birthday boy, belated birthdays to our boy Jerry. You can follow him at JerrySendDWZ. You can follow me at DWZ Memphis. Please follow the show everywhere at Dynasty Warzone. Leave a sub, leave a review, do whatever you can. Those are all the free ways to help us. And remember, here at the Dynasty Warzone, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll see you back here on Sunday, Player Profiler YouTube channel. Thank you all.
Justin